These canyon walls carry my tune. The only one to hear my song are the coyotes and the wolves. But if I drink enough of this flask, I can hear them sing your song too.
Hi, this is Robert Leiterman with the Bluff Creek Project. Just got back about a week ago from Washington State. Had a great trip. I had Bart Cutino and I had David Hale swing by and pick me up, and drove all the way up to Washington State. Got to meet some new friends and some old friends up there just out in Washington, near the Cascades area. Special thanks to Kurt Brandenburg, Shane Carlson, Chris Spencer, Rebecca Slick, David Hale, Zachary Hale, Todd Hale, Jonathan Brown, and of course Bart Cutino. Had a great time. Also got a chance to swing by the Cliffs Museum, which was pretty cool. North American Bigfoot Museum. I got to sign the door. That was pretty awesome. Put my signature right under Bobcat Goldthwaites. I got to do 2 interviews up there. Podcast in the field interviews, which is pretty cool. One with Bart and Todd about their Bart's Sierra's thermal footage. Todd was at the fire. Bart was walking around doing the footage. That's pretty cool. I got to interview those guys. First time to interview those two guys together, and I think it was fun. And the other one was 3 guys from the Olympic Project. It was Shane Carlson, Chris Spencer, and Todd Hale, and they're working on they kind of talked about the nest that they discovered over the last couple of years and the process of what they're working on. So I hope you're going to enjoy these podcasts from in the field. And it was a lot of fun doing it. And, well, here they are. It is recording. This is Robert Leiterman with the Bluff Creek Project. You guys are in for a treat today. We're actually at a place in Washington. And we're surrounded by the campfire here. So I can, everybody want to sound off who's here?
Zachary Hale.
David Hallett.
Shane Corson. Jonathan Brown.
Chris Spencer.
And there was a ghost over there. I thought it was over there. Anyway, I have our 2 guests today. It's going to be Bart Cutino and Todd Hale. The neat thing about this is we're going to flash back to a while back, August 25th, I think it is.
Yeah.
August 25th. Bart Cutino's here with me. What year was that?
2012.
So in 2012, Todd Hale, Bart Cutino, and a few other individuals, we'll throw their names out a little bit, were at a campsite, and Bart had recorded in his therm glowing objects, heat signatures that were around the campsite, 3 or 4 of them based on the investigations. But we never had you 2 together. This is the first time we're doing this where you guys are sitting together, going back to that night, talking about what happened that day. So I'll let you guys go ahead, but first give a quick introduction to yourselves, and then we'll get started. Bart?
Bart Cutino. Todd Hale.
And Todd Hale, you're a member of the Olympic Project as well?
Yes, I am.
And I think Bart is an honorary member of that, aren't you?
I don't know, honorary, but yeah, absolutely. Part of the project, BFRO, and a couple others, I think.
You're also an honorary project of the Bluff Creek Project, too. Yeah, I think you were.
That's right, yeah.
You've been helping us out, clearing brush, and telling us all nice things, which is very nice.
Some good things down there.
Yeah, very nice things. Well, let's get started on that. So, where are we at? Is it okay to give out this location?
No,
Okay.
not the specific.
I'm not going to give the location, but I will say we're in the state of Washington, which is north of Oregon. For those listeners who don't know where California is, by the way, you go to the left, you get the Pacific Ocean, and we'll keep going. So anyhow, we're in a great place. It's pretty quiet here. There's been some activity, but we got together in the middle of winter, and we're lucky because right now it's not raining. Usually it is, but we're lucked out. So we put our requests in to the rain gods, and they gave us a few days with no rain, but I guess that's going to end here on Monday probably. But we're enjoying it here. So let's get started. So let's go back to that day. You guys were at a place in the Sierras, and why were you there in the first place?
We were there a couple weeks before. This was near the infamous Sierra kill site where Justin Smay, a partner, had claimed to shoot 2 Bigfoots back in October 2010. And it was in an area that was an area that I was looking at targeting. Essentially what happened was there was an incident 2 weeks before. Justin had taken a lie detector test I wrote for the incident, and they just went back to the site, and he was just showing a few people there the site. They didn't even know if they were staying the night or not. They ended up staying the night and had an incident late night with stomping and just very aggressive before they ran off. That was in the southwest tree line. So anyways, 2 weeks later, we were able to kind of throw something together within, God, what was it, Todd? Probably within 2 days we planned it, right? That we were...
Yeah, I didn't even know I was going to go. I had to get yours and Justin's approval. If you remember, I was in contact with Roe, and we had just gotten back from the Munns expedition and jumped to Bluff Creek, and I was asking Roe, hey, do you go out and do anything in Southern California? Or, I was looking for someone to go out with locally. And he's like, no, but I'm going to go up to the Sierra site. I mean, this is a quick trip. You want to split gas or something? And I'm like, sure, I'll go. I mean, who wouldn't want to go?
Right.
And he's like, okay, I got to check with Justin and Bart to see if you can go. So he goes, yeah, Bart said you're good. So we headed up there.
So glad you were with me that night.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was hard for you to get. You had to make some promises to get up there too, right?
Yeah, I did. Well, you and I actually had a trip planned to come up here, Washington, and so I guess you could say, being a family man too, I've got so much allotted Bigfoot time, if you will, and yeah.
Well, I'm glad you got that time too, because I remember you telling me. He goes, Robert, change of plans. We're not going to Washington for your fourth annual migration route. We are going to go investigate this thing that took place. And I got cool, because I was in the point of trying to videotape, and we were doing investigations together.
Yeah,
that'd be a great opportunity. You sent me some stuff before. You sent me basically. You told me, you go, Robert, you're not going to believe this, but I had an epic visit, and I recorded squatches on a therm. Of course, that sounded. I go, really? Did you really do that? I did. So he sends me some of the work, and I looked at it, and I go, God, that looks like a campfire, and God, it looks like guys in the campsite just like walking around collecting firewood or something. And you're saying, no, it's not, Robert, because the fire ring is hidden, you can't see it, and the woods piles nearby, they don't need to move around, and the thing flew through the air. I go, well, that was probably just like a flying squirrel or something. I think dropped down, that was just a bird. So I wrote a 9-page thing saying why I didn't think it was what you thought it was. Then you said, well, we could fix that, Robert. We're not going to Washington. We are going to the Sierras to investigate this thing. And I thought that was pretty cool. So that's how I got involved. But now flashing back to where you guys were. So now you guys are up there. And what were you guys doing up there? Why were you guys up at the kill site?
So I was up the night before with Justin. We got up there late. This was only going to be like literally a 40-hour trip, if that. And we stayed up late. We were dead tired. Went to bed 5 in the morning. I think the guys. What time did you guys come, Todd? You guys came in the afternoon, didn't you?
We got there about 1 o'clock that day.
That's right.
And there's been naysayers. People said that Roe and the guys, we were just doing that to make some money, and we were all in kind of cahoots. But I didn't even know Roe, just from Facebook. This is literally the first time I met him, and we're heading on a 12-hour trek up north, and it was kind of crazy. I mean, we got there 1 o'clock, and we met Bart and Justin, the whole thing, and we were just kind of waiting for nightfall, and then
Yeah, there was the whole time we had heard nothing was going on. There was nothing that, there was nothing being caused to initiate investigation. It was totally unexpected, basically, when it did happen.
You're just trying to squeeze the trip in before going up to Washington.
Pretty much, yeah. Taking advantage of a hot lead, if you will. And it around. I don't know if you want us to get into it now.
Yeah. How many people were sitting there basically at that campsite you guys were at?
we had Michael Lorenz, who I had known for a while, actually through some of my Washington friends, but I'd never met him in person yet. Good caster guy. Justin was there. Also, Sean Evidence, that had the Bigfoot Evidence website. This was like his second night in the woods. Actually, his first night really in the woods was when they had he was part of that incident 2 weeks prior. And so anyways, yeah. Wait, is that everybody? Yeah, I think
and
that
Roe
is.
and myself.
And
yeah.
Roe and you.
There were 6 of us.
6 of us.
And Sean got there around 10 p.m., I think.
Yeah, he got there. He got there late. I remember he picked me and Roe up off the road for a late walk around 10. You're right, around 10.
And another thing was there were a lot of deer hanging around us that day. It was strange.
During the daytime. So
Yeah.
like,
No, and night. That
And
was
at
the
night.
most Nevada muley. I mean, that was we ran into. It was multiple Nevada muley herds converted on that meadow, converged, I should say, within like a mile and a half square radius.
It was
I've
weird.
never seen that many deer in my life. That's what was.
It was
quote
weird.
unquote different.
That was unusual
Right?
for
That
you
was
guys.
different. Yeah.
so you guys are on the fire range. You guys are kicking back. But I remember a couple of guys went to sleep early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Justin was out because we'd stayed up to like 5 in the morning, and then Michael Lorenz actually went. He kind of hit it early. I think about probably 11, 10:30.
He was sleeping in his truck.
Sleeping in the truck, and
Yeah.
he's facing the north side of that meadow.
Justin was on a cot next to the fire, and Roe and I were sitting at the fire.
And Sean, and then I think we were just taking pictures. It was kind of the end of the night. I think we're getting ready to hang it up pretty much. I mean, there's nothing going on.
Yep.
So Shmea, the guy who allegedly shot 2 Bigfoots, is sleeping in a cot, the same location, not too far from where that happened.
Yeah, I told him he was crazy.
Oh, yeah. He's right in the
I
gap
say, you're
there.
nuts, man.
But there he was.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys sitting around, and Bart, why did you get up and decide to go therming? Like Bart Cutino always goes out and therming. The best thing to do is wait till people are by a fire, chatting away, and then sneak out and film. Is that what you're doing?
I promised Sean I wanted to take him for a walk and kind of break him in a little bit. And I'm looking at him. I'll never forget this. Like looking at him, and I'm just trying to decide: should I just hit it now? There's nothing going on. And I looked at him. I said, "All right, let's go. You ready? Let's go." So we're gonna go for a walk, and we went out by the Eastern Vista, and I actually had him do a few calls, which is kind of funny because at the time we didn't know the Squatches. They had to have been there while we were doing that. So it was kind of funny looking back in hindsight. But
sorry to interrupt, but I just want to paint a picture to that. There's a road that goes around that group of trees,
Yep.
slightly going uphill, and on your left as you're going up this hill, the sighting location is to the right, but on the left is a dropping off towards Nevada, right? The
correct.
viewshed?
Correct.
And you guys are screaming and yelling into Nevada, right?
Yes.
And
Yep.
then you work your way to the top. I'll let you continue.
Yeah, we just kind of worked our way to the top. The intention was go on like come out of the spur road, maybe hang a right or left and walk, a mile or so, and, look around with the therm and just get him used to the dark a little bit. I think it was 58% waxing the moon that night. So we're walking up, and I'd had my first visual thermal was 07 in Washington, and that was actually ironically 5 years and a week prior. And you learn a lot of information from your perspective from something like that happening to you. And it was in a vantage point of camp, and I just kind of told Sean, I go, stop, I want to try to look down. And I'm still trying to get my bearings because I'm not fully familiar with the Sierra side. I'd only been there one time previously. And so I'm looking down, and which I think is the vantage point, and I can see there's like just a little bit of fire.
So you're looking down the slope,
Yep.
through the trees, down to where the campsite is.
Yeah, there's a V-shaped tree, and then there's what looked like a tree gap, but it wasn't. It's actually it's dark, so the back of the tree doesn't get any heat from the sun during the day. There's heavy cover there, and so it has nothing to radiate at night. Therefore, it looks like kind of a cold, like a portal or something. It just looks like a
watch the portal
window.
wars,
Yeah,
right.
I know exactly, like a window or something. But it's not. It's just the back of the biggest tree there.
That's
the
100
circumference of
yards
camp.
plus away.
105,
Yeah, that's a long ways. We measured that out.
which we didn't know at the time.
Why'd you stop there to measure? I mean, to film or to check?
Because that would have been the logical. It was the first opening, and then the most logical looking down, trying to find possibly subject watching vantage point of camp. I mean, that's what I was looking for, and it was very interesting because I'll never forget looking down there, and I was running audio in my head, and poor Sean, he's with me and he can't see anything, so he's just kind of depending on me to tell him what's going on. And it's kind of cool because you do hear in the audio like us banter and going the whole time. And I mean, he was initially really uncomfortable and scared as I'm telling him, because I'm just looking down and it's just the way that they were moving. I'm like, you know, if that's not the guys, which I didn't know for sure yet, because I knew Ro and Todd were still up down there, then those are squatches, those are bipeds. And so I knew with my position, you know, what lack of equipment, unexpected, with personnel. I mean, we just didn't have no radio at that point. It was just get as much footage as possible and ask questions later.
Could you hear the guys in the site down there at all?
Not at all.
Not at all. You're far enough away, but 100 yards downhill, terrain, trees in the way, makes it difficult.
Correct. It's kind of, you know, it's kind of spotty. You know, there's, you know, little clusters of trees and but it's pretty heavy cover because there's some grandfather trees in there.
So you look down and you see this glowing figure. But did you think that was a fire?
No, because you could tell because it was moving in between, which looked like a gap, but was the cold spot from the back of the tree, and you know, kind of going right and then left. And that wasn't initially. Initially, you just saw something bipedal cross,
right,
and then there was some right and left, back and forth, and it was interesting because you're filming, and in reality, in real time, you know, it ended up being 45 minutes of footage, but they're only in the footage for like 5 minutes because they would disappear 5-6 minutes. You don't know if they're coming back or not. And
right.
There really isn't a situation to run down and try to flush them out because you're just flushing them away. There is no choke down there that you're going to, you know, that you have any advantage whatsoever with the situation we were in. You know, so logically, it's just film, and hopefully, you know, and they kept coming back. And it was crazy. And Sean is, you know, initially he was pretty shooken up, but then he was getting, you know, he was braving up pretty quick, you know, realizing the moment possibly. So,
yeah, if I remember rightly, there were 3 times you filmed. You went back for batteries a couple times.
No, once.
Once,
yeah.
And when you were looking through, when I remember seeing the footage, there's this glowing thing on the bottom, well, on the right-hand side, and then there's the one that moves back and forth.
Correct.
Which one did you notice first?
The movement going back and forth or in between, you know, the tree gap, the back of that tree, seeing the movement there, because it was just, there's very like subtle movements, and it's interesting. There's like parallels from my perspective, from what I've seen prior and what I saw here. I would say it's the way that they move, you know, type of thing, that it was very curious. Couldn't gauge a size because I didn't even know it was 105 yards away. I wasn't very familiar. I didn't even know which tree gap yet until we went back. But at some point after, and I did try to get them at every other angle. It was the only window I had was through that particular window of trees. I mean, that was it. And eventually Sean and I had to walk back, and I'm trying to get them the whole way coming back. I'm not seeing them,
right,
not knowing that they're actually lower than I would have anticipated from my vantage point. And we got back in camp, and you could hear all the audio with our full conversation, and I'm telling the guys, and I'll let Todd, why don't you pick it up of what you...
Well, Justin was asleep on the cot. If you back up from our perspective, Ro and I were in this situation right here. Ro was on my right, I'm here. We had a really small fire. Like the fire was about 4 inches tall.
It was just a warming
tiny fire. We just had our hands next to it. We were trying to keep our night vision going. You could block it with your hand like this and still see into the woods, just like you can now, like this. So the very beginning of that, we heard a whistle in front of us. We thought it was a bird. Then it may have been. I don't know what it was. But Rose like, did you hear that? I'm like, yeah. So the next audible sound, I thought over Sean's vehicle, on the road is to our left, and I thought the guys were coming back. We heard walking on the road, so I kind of went like this. I think they're back, and then they never arrived. So we heard something on the other side of the vehicle, and then we're just kind of sitting there, we didn't know what to think of it at that point. We're just kind of hanging out, just sitting there, waiting for them to get back, and we're just scanning the horizon and looking in the trees, and Ro points up to the right, like up on the ridge where the road would be.
Yeah.
And he's like, do you see something moving up there? And I'm looking, I'm like, yeah, I think so. It looks like something moving. He's like, it looks like something swaying back and forth. And that wouldn't have been where the initial thermal stuff was going on. This is up there.
So that's far to the right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not towards the gaps of trees that that Bart is at. Far to Bart's left.
And we're just like, that's kind of weird. So I don't know what to do with it, And then it just goes away, and we're just sitting there. And then you could see initially like the shadows or movement right here to my left, like my angle towards you.
How far away?
You couldn't tell, but it looked like it was about 150 feet or so.
Okay. Where
I thought they were, ended up, that's not where they were the next day. They were actually closer, but it's hard to tell at night,
I agree.
So we saw shadows going back and forth and movement, and it was driving us nuts because we weren't sure what we were looking at. So that's about the time those guys came down, and Bart is like, I don't remember what you said. It's in the audio recording, but I was pointing. He's like, don't point. He's like, put your hand down.
You're all excited.
It was crazy. It was scary. It was exciting. Like all the above. It was like, this is nuts, man.
And Bart's telling you, okay, be natural.
Yeah. And you can hear the tone of our voice in the recording. I'm like, yeah, we've been seeing something right there in the trees.
Yeah, row 2 was pretty excited. And it was weird because I remember at that time we were in camp, and the whole time, I had the thermal, and I'm trying to look up through the tree gaps, and I know, after we went back to the investigation, which we'll get to, I was bypassing where I was filming them from, and at the top, you couldn't. I was looking past them the whole time, never thinking they're that close. 35 yards would it end up being? Yeah. 35 yards.
32, I thought it was, but it's the same difference. It's close. And that's pretty close.
Yeah, especially in the dark.
Very interesting too, because from their position at the fire, it would be the darkest position in that circumference of camp in that time, and with a mild fire, even more of like kind of a black wall there. Pretty interesting, and a little bit of heavy cover there too.
Just to interject to describe the location, you have the little fire. Then there's some distances where there's no trees. There's some firewood.
Correct.
And there is a pile of firewood, and Rose like, go get some firewood. I said, I'm not going over there to get some firewood. Are you crazy? You go get firewood. And we were kind of arguing about it. I go, there's some sticks behind us I saw today, and it was behind us. It was so dark with our shadows and stuff. I was kind of on my hands and knees, like feeling for these sticks. So I'm literally like on my hands and knees trying to find these little tiny sticks, and I look up and I see eyes over by the truck, and it scared the out of me. Beep. I said, oh my God, there's some eyes. And then I saw them rise up like a deer, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's deer. And it was weird because the deer was right next to Michael's truck.
Michael was sleeping in his truck.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the deer was 100 directly behind us, and the squatches were directly in front of us, and we were the barrier, which was kind of odd. And I was like, what the hell is going on? This is weird, man.
At this point, had you ever experienced any Sasquatch-related activity before to this point, or is this the first time you're experiencing this?
To this level is the first time.
Yeah, so this is like, what the heck?
I had a very possible sighting in 1986, but as far as going out and looking for these things, this caught me totally off guard.
So at this point, at this point, are you a believer before you see this, or
a believer? I guess you could say a believer or a knower, one or the other. So, I mean, I hate the word believer.
Yeah,
honestly.
I'm sorry, I threw that out there. Yeah, for lack of better words.
Yeah.
So this confirmed a lot of things. There's something out there, and it's different. And it wasn't.
I wasn't sure that night.
Okay.
It was after the recreation and the reviewing, but yeah, when we saw later in the night, that's when I saw something that scared me. But not at that moment of that night, not yet.
So you have the guy who allegedly shot and killed one creature, wounded maybe another, sleeping in a cot while this is all going on. Did you wake him up at all? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't he offered his weapon, didn't he?
When Bart came down to change the batteries, he's like, guys, I think I'm filming these things. And we're like, yeah, we're seeing shadows right here in the trees going back and forth, back and forth. And Justin's like, yeah, I told you guys, you want the rifle?
And then he went back to sleep?
Yeah.
He was kind of in and out, like on. Yeah. It was like conscientious what was going on, but I mean, like we were up to like I don't think he slept at all the night before. So he was just like done. Like he couldn't even really keep it,
There's a lot of people that say it was Justin's friends hoaxing us and all this kind of stuff. What kind of chance is he taking if he's offering his rifle?
That's
and
a big
they're
chance.
Right there.
That's a big chance.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous, isn't it?
The later investigation we did a follow-up on, three to four individuals possibly around that campsite you guys were at.
Yeah, we knew.
Yeah.
And they'd have
later
to be,
on, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they essentially have to be naked individuals, 7,100 feet. Said 58% waxing moon, all 3 or 4 subjects on the highest end of the human height scale.
Yeah.
And would have had to get in there, negotiate all through that without lights or us noticing that. And did nothing to initiate investigation.
And you're pretty close on ideas of how size, because we use Kip Morrill as a stand-in.
Oh, it was
to
perfect.
Gauge
yeah.
the size. Yeah.
He was supposed to meet us here in Washington on that trip, and I had to tell him, Kip, he's all one of our best friends now. It worked out perfectly. And I said, hey, oh my God, this is what happened. Whatever, we've got to divert to the sea. He's like, I don't care, I'm in. Whatever. And it was perfect. So we actually had a model. He was 6'3" and almost as tall as the subjects in the film, so it gave us a good gauge of the size. And being there, I hate to say this, but I was with a bunch of hobbits that night. I was the tallest guy there. I'm 6. Yeah. I'm 6 on the nose.
I'm 5'9".
You're 5'9".
You're taller than me.
On a good day.
On a good day, yeah.
What are the other guys, Todd? What would you say? They're all in the 5.
I think Roe was 5'10", and I don't know what Justin is.
Justin's got to be 5'8" or 5'9". He's not tall.
Nobody's that tall.
Yeah, no one in the group's tall at all.
I don't know other vehicles in the area, just what you guys had. And you would hear cars driving around because of the location there.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to go back to the storyline. So you put batteries back in your cameras. You charged them back up again. And you went right back up there again.
We went back up. Sean was all fired up. He's all, let's go. We went back up. Same thing. I don't think we're going to see anything. I didn't see anything from the bottom. I thought it was totally done. Within minutes, there they are again. And after a few minutes of in and out, I remember telling Sean, and got a lot of experience using these things, and I didn't know what to say. I just said it looked like almost like a flash of light or something ran from left to right really fast, and ended up being, through our testing or whatever, it was a thrown projectile or a rock.
A heated projectile.
That was warm or heated because of the color, and really in a straight line motion, but it was so odd seeing it at the time. And I think was that what you guys heard?
I heard that live.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what it was. I was like, I just heard the weirdest sound.
Yeah.
And Rose like, what is that? I'm like, I don't know. Because you heard the bonk, bonk. And I was like, what the fuck was that?
Yep.
I didn't know what it was. I had no clue what that sound was.
Because you can't see
And then
it.
when I saw the thermal, I'm like, that's what I heard. Later on, he sent me the footage, and I was making so many notes, and I was just calling him all the time, dude, that's what I heard. That's the exact cadence of when it hit, bonk, bonk,
So almost like a bouncing.
When it hit the tree
Yeah.
and hit the ground. Yeah.
There's also
I
another.
heard it live.
There's another section there where something was dropped.
Just prior, like maybe seconds prior, it looks like there's like a dropped rock that's high up at about a 10-foot level, meaning not saying a subject's that tall, but that reaching that tall or whatever. And then the projectile comes from left to right, and it just looks like a bullet, but I mean just a straight shot. We're like, we kind of recreated it with Kip. He had headlamps on, and he's trying to do it, and he's throwing it hard, and there's this arc, in a natural human throw.
Yeah.
And this thing was just like shot out of a cannon, and you could see in the film, you look close, boom, it ricochets right off that tree. It bounces.
I know this would be speculation on my part, but the one that fell down went first?
Yes.
And then the one from left to right shot across. Do you think there's a correlation between that?
It's hard to say. Yeah, no, I don't know. I also wonder, what were those rocks for? Were the rocks for us? Was it for the deer? What were they for?
And the rocks were hot.
So it just means, had been probably held for a period of time. And, there's some heat there.
Think Shmei had his name written on those rocks?
Yeah.
I'd wondered about that all weekend. Like, if these things are as intelligent as people say, can they recognize faces? Can they know your smell?
Mm-hmm.
Probably smell.
Like, stuff like that.
So they weren't so sure he was here because he's sleeping on the cot, but they're trying to
And
get
I
a
was
better look.
like, I told Justin, you're crazy.
Yeah.
These things could come down in here and kill you, as far as I knew at the time. And he slept on the cot.
And went back to sleep and you told him something was going on.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
That's crazy. Because I remember when Bart first told me about this, it's like, because I know Bart you had a sighting, but no filming of it, just the story.
Right, back in 07. Yeah,
And what you saw, I'm sorry to interrupt, but what you saw this time reminded you of what you saw in Washington?
Right, but 07 I was just a lot closer. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot closer to see the more intimate details, especially anatomically, where these they just look like naked bipeds, from a distance. And I didn't know, how tall. I mean, to be honest with you, it was the hardest thing was driving back the next morning, realizing I had to get back, no investigation. My God, I got to get back here. Just because you're curious, you have no idea. There's no baseline, there's no gauge of anything. And I couldn't even review the footage until I drove all the way back home to Monterey. I didn't have the laptop with me. That was being repaired at the time. So I think Brandenburg Kirk was the first one to actually watch it. And then I sent it to him. And then here I'm going, ooh. And just, okay, I'll watch it. But there was some other interesting tidbits. I mean, aside from us having to cancel when we, doing the recreations, there was another gentleman I had to divert. Great guy. He's a police officer in Nebraska. He was bringing his son. He was supposed to come meet us in Washington. And so I had to get him now to go to Reno, which was the closest. So that was like $1,000. It was like, at that moment, we're just scrambling. I needed to get the answers for what was filmed. And at first, I didn't ever think I would probably, release it until we got into that investigation.
We started talking about it. You were conscientious about it. I know you guys, with the Olympic project, you guys work on another project, and every time you submit stuff, you get flack from other people. So you're like, I want to make sure you have it together. You would figure out what possibly happened.
Absolutely. All the trial and error, due diligence, everything, and then full transparency. That's if you're going to release something.
So you told me, I want you to tear that beep out of it.
Yep.
And that was where I go. So we had our team, and we did everything from heating rocks to throwing rocks to measuring gaps, figuring out height, dropping things to try to duplicate sounds, trying to bounce rocks off trees, see if they make a similar sound to that. And we got it all done. I owed you an apology. I think I already gave you that a long time ago.
Yeah.
You're not asking for another one, are you?
Well, yeah, after the interview would be nice.
Yeah, okay,
to have another one. Yeah.
Well, it's like being an investigator of it. It's you don't want to jump to conclusions, but you want to ponder the evidence. You want to be fair and impartial, but you all want to be realistic. So that's why we did all the follow-ups, trying to explain or disprove it, if you will. But we had some trouble with that. But I like to think the investigative process was done well enough so other people would see that, well, the guys get an effort to it. And that's how I think investigations should be. So were you satisfied with the end of the investigation?
Oh, I was blown away. I mean, I knew, I'm a realist. I know the footage is a C-. I know people aren't used to seeing through thermal. That is a great distance. It was 322.40 from 105 yards. I know that. But it was an opportunity to do an investigation and kind of up the standard, if you will. Someone eventually is going to get better footage. I hope, it's me, but if it's not, I want it for somebody else. And then they're going to, have to take these steps. It should be this quality of work. And I give you a ton of credit for that. Would have never came together without you. And together we were able to do, we did 4 analysis reports, 11 recreation videos. I went Phil Poling, who's a known skeptic and does amazing videos, usually tearing up Bigfoot videos, and gave him everything I had. He did a phenomenal job representing everything. What else do we have? it was a lot. It was almost overwhelming how much we released out there.
Mm-hmm.
But I was thrilled with the investigation and the time spent and all the individuals that contributed.
Yeah, a lot of people were a part of that. And Todd, experiencing what happened and looking at the recreation, did that reinforce how you felt about it, or give you new ideas, or bring back memories of anything?
Yeah, Bart was texting me. He's like, the large heat signature, we were going back and forth. Like, I was asking him, what is that? Is that Sean's car with his engine? I mean, what is that? And he's like, no, Sean's car was over here. That's like a large one standing there, which I had no idea at the time. We didn't see it, obviously, at the night. It was totally still and off to the left, like watching what was going on. And he's like, you're not going to believe how tall this thing was. And he's texting me during that investigation, and I was like, are you kidding me? But at the same time, it didn't surprise me, because I had seen, later in that evening, I had seen one go from tree to tree up in the starlight gap.
Mm-hmm.
And the way it went from tree to tree, it was really smooth and really fast. And I didn't realize the size of it till the next morning when we were up there looking for tracks, and we were scouring that hill before we left. And I told Bart, I go, that thing, whatever I saw last night, I go, your head is about right here. You're below its chest. You look like a kid compared to what I saw. So, yeah, I mean, it was a crazy night. I don't know what else to add to it,
Well, here's something I like to ask people is, after you experience something like this, when you go out in the woods by yourself with others and it's in dark, does that change how you look at things?
Well, you answer that one first.
It did for a year. I didn't go back in the woods for a year after that. And then we went back for the 2013 trip, and you were there.
Yeah.
But after that happened, I said, well, I'm done. It's a done deal. I know 100% now. I don't need to read any books. I don't need to be in this anymore. I'm just going to move along. I'm done with this shit. And then he's like, dude, we got to go back. It's the year anniversary. Let's go back. And then guess what? I'm just sucked right back into it again. Because after that, I didn't want anything to do with it. It scared me so bad. It's the scariest night of my life. And there's no reason I don't want to do this anymore. I know I'm done. But at the same time, the curiosity is overwhelming. Now, for all these years, I want to have a full daytime sighting. I want to see the face. I want to see the eyes. We've had a lot of stuff over the years, but I don't have that sighting yet. And I'm still chasing that.
So I guess that's once that happens, you think you're going to be done, or you want to?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I have a healthy fear of these things.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we do spend a lot of time in the woods. We do a lot of night stuff, and I know we've been around these things many times. And there's been some scary nights. There's been some exciting nights. But at the whole thing being, I still love doing it. And we still do it. We're here tonight, right?
Yeah, we are here tonight.
Yeah.
And with great like-minded friends, all with different contributing talents, and it's the best.
Yeah.
It's the best.
So Bart, same question for you. If you want me to repeat it, or you got it?
Yeah, no. I wouldn't say that anymore in the fear department at all. I mean, just I try to take every bit of information and, the trial and error, and I think, okay, what are the parallels from my experiences, and it's interesting. It just, you take that information and then it just becomes part of your niche and how you research, and like that is a big thing. Is the vantage point of camp. It seems I would have. Both times I saw them, they did nothing to initiate investigation. You know what I mean? It's just randomly checking, and sometimes it's boring. But it's always watching where they're going to watch the human behavior, because for some reason there's this shy, retiring nature and this hyper awareness, that's there. But it's interesting. I do not know if they knew. I assume they knew I was there the whole time, but probably couldn't see them because we weren't using. There's no benefit of the light source. You know what I mean? So, but anyways, I just take the information from it and move forward with it and try to get better. I know that Utopian would be getting, multiple individuals 30 or 40 yards. You do that with the technology we have now and the thermal now. It's not going to prove it, but it'll put a dent in it and maybe bring other things, other possibilities for DNA, what the subject touched and what have you. So that's the goal. And I know it's attainable because I've seen what the money shot looks like before, even though we weren't able to get it in 2007. I know what it looks like. So we just persevere. That's it.
That's tough. I mean, I haven't experienced what you guys have, so kind of envious, but yet thankful in a way. What would you guys have to say to somebody who naysays your experience, who says, "Oh, you guys just hallucinated, or you saw a bear, you saw a shadow"? What words of wisdom do you have for those guys?
I would say, any questions in your mind, first check and see if we answered those questions ahead of time. The material's out there, the investigation, everything we did is out there. Give us another suggestion. Tell us where we went wrong. Tell us what we could have done better. We'll take the feedback. But first check that. And there's a lot of information out there. And I'd probably start with, Polling's documentary. You did a great job, very objective, and just read the materials and then ask the questions.
I agree with that, because not to digress, but when we did the snowmount thing. That's for another discussion, but we had to repeat ourselves over and over again, and a lot of people knew more than we did, even though they weren't there, and they always had these, it was probably this, without really knowing.
Slash piles and whatnot.
Oh, right on. Yeah. And I remember when you first told me, being skeptical, you said, I caught something on therm. I go, okay, did you actually film it? Yeah, I'll send it to you. I'm like, whoa, boy. And so I watched that, like I mentioned earlier, and I looked at that going, that's probably the engine block of the car. Oh, that's probably the campfire. Oh, that's probably Todd going back and forth looking for firewood.
Yeah.
I never did. I think there was somebody else trying to spoof you guys. I thought it was you guys in camp, just by watching the thing.
Yeah, that's a logical, first impression to have. The footage isn't good enough to tell you otherwise initially until you see the context, of what happened and the investigation and what the individuals have to say that were present.
Yeah, which brings up another thing I like to tease you with is you send your after this whole thing went down, you end up sending your thermal off to be repaired, and you got a letter back from the company.
God,
you want to talk about that?
Kit Morrell's favorite story.
Oh, it is.
I don't know. I was just so pissed because I didn't realize you're looking through your thermal screen for a long period of time, and one of my best friends, Kirk Brandenburg, I was able to see through his thermal and see, oh, okay, look, there's a little bit of washout here. Was that going to make the footage 10 times better? No, almost probably unnoticeable, but you want everything you could get, again, 320, 240 res from 105 yards. So I wrote FLIR complaining about it, and they wrote me a really kind letter back saying, "Dear Bart, we're so sorry your Bigfoots were blurry," and that's how it started. So you can use your imagination. How the rest went.
I can imagine they made copies of that letter and it's posted somewhere else too. Yeah, I thought that was kind of a nice touch to it, because, like talking about therm stuff, you think humidity affects your view shed?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. It's especially that you're looking at a biped. From a distance, usually I always say 90 to 100 yards is really the threshold where clothing starts really disappearing, even on a clear night. It can go farther. Yeah. I've seen clothing 130, 140 yards, but you throw a lot of humidity in there, and, that threshold gets squeezed quite a bit, probably down even less than half, I would say. Yeah.
So going back to that night, was that a clear night and the stars were out? You could see it on the backside of the hillside.
Oh yeah.
Some stars in the background.
Yeah.
And the humidity.
It got cold though. The temperature was a warm day. It got cold.
This.
Okay.
Yeah, as that night, it cooled down. I remember at the end, you
I
got
was
your
freezing.
adrenaline running. Yeah, you're freezing. And it was interesting because I really believed in my head at the end. I didn't see them again for like 15 minutes or so. Maybe it was longer. And I told Sean, all right, let's go back. And I really believed. I told the guys, all right, everyone, we're going to pretend we're going to bed. And I really thought I was going to catch 3 bipeds descending, down the hill or whatever. And it would be nothing. And then I fell asleep. I was out. I maybe slept an hour and 40 hours. I mean, thermal hanging off my neck. And
I had set up a tent like 20 feet back from Roe's truck. And Roe and I walked shoulder to shoulder back to his truck. We were so scared. And he's like, are you going to get in your tent? I said, no, I'm not getting in my tent. I'm sleeping in the car with you. And if shit goes down, we're fucking out of here, man. There was no way I was getting in that tent because there was no canopy. It was just screen. I go, if these things come in and I wake up to a Sasquatch looking at me, oh, man, it was freaky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the last question I have for you guys is, what recommendations do you have for other people who've had these experiences? How to document it, or how to investigate it?
Be preemptive versus being reactive. I mean, don't be in a position to wait to hear something or whatever. If you've got the equipment, use the equipment. And also, I would recommend, it's just me personally, is get great at what you're good at and defer to those around you that specialize in those other areas and rely on them instead of trying to be the, jack of all trades in it. And I think that would be my advice. So
let me get back, so I understand this. If you're not an expert, but you've had this encounter, get somebody that that has better at the subject matter to help you investigate it or to take a look at it.
Absolutely. I mean, use as much talent as you can. Absolutely.
Well, that's a good recommendation. Todd, anything else in there?
Nope.
Because I know you guys also are working on a research project too, and you guys just have some pretty cool stuff. And
yeah, it's been going for years.
And you brought some people in to look at it too, just to try to help you get a better understanding.
A lot of professional people, yes. Yeah.
And were they helpful?
Absolutely. No one has seen anything like that. So that may be for another show.
Oh, definitely. That's why I brought it up. We're kind of working our way into
Yeah.
So we'll be up here for a few more days, so we have a few more interviews to do. But I just wanted to talk about this. It's not every day you get to have 2 of the players that took place during Bart Cutino's Sierra's thermal footage. And I think it's great that they're both here. And I think it's the first time you guys have been recorded discussing it together. Am I right?
Possibly.
Yeah.
I
think so.
I really don't talk about too much stuff publicly.
Yeah.
Even on a couple shows I've been on, people ask me. Well, I'll say a few things, but as far as social media goes, not so much.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
It doesn't matter. Yeah,
that's about right.
Well, I want to thank you guys both for sharing with us, and I'm ready to go out squashing later tonight when we're done with this. So thanks, guys. Any other words of advice before we call it?
No, thank you, and thank you for all you did in making that all happen. I couldn't have done it without you, that's for sure.
Oh well, the price was right. Bart's cooking, I gotta go there. By the way, those of you who don't know, when we go on trips, Bart is a pretty good cook. He cooks a lot of great stuff. As a matter of fact, we had pizza. We had outdoor pizza. What was that thing you cooked the pizza in there, Bart?
It's almost like a wood-fired. We had the pizza oven.
Yeah, we stuffed ourselves. We had some meat, and we had some gluten-free, and we had it was good. It was very good. All right, well, that's it for tonight on this one, and we'll get back to you guys a little bit later. And thanks again. This is Robert Leiterman with the Bluff Creek Project, calling into this in-the-field interview, and it's kind of nice, right by the fire. Okay, thank you.
These canyon walls carry my tune. The only one to hear my song are the coyotes and the wolves if I drink